everyone. I wasn't planning on telling a story tonight, but I was convinced by Elizabeth, so bear with me a little bit as I try to piece this story together. Back when I was in high school, my last couple years in high school, my first few years in college, I worked at a store in Duxbury called Osborne's. I don't know if anybody frequents that store. It's a liquor store right up the street here, and I have to say this because my boss is probably going to be watching, other than working at the library, that was the best job that I ever had. I loved it. I was a shy kid, but something about being behind the counter, something about knowing all the people that came in, knowing all the regulars. I knew everybody in Duxbury. Every time I left the house, it was a running joke. I would see somebody from Duxbury. I went on a cruise. I went to the Bahamas. Sure enough, first day on the cruise, I see someone from Osborne's from Duxbury. But one day while I'm there, we had a regular customer. His name was David. Really, really nice guy. He was a dairy farmer in Duxbury, and he would come in and he would be covered in cow manure, stinking to high heaven, and he'd come in and he'd buy his scratch tickets 2 times a day. And he'd spend a lot. He'd spend a couple hundred each time on scratch tickets. And one day he came in and he bought his regular tickets, and then he went out to the car, scratched them, came back in for his second round, and then left, just like every other day. Well, later on that day, I'm working on the counter, and I see a piece of paper that's kind of jammed under the boxes of candy on the counter. So I pull it out, and I open it up, and it's a color photocopy of the front and the back of a $10 scratch ticket. And that scratch ticket on the photocopy was a $4 million winner. So I said, what is this? Is somebody just playing a prank on us? What's going on here? And remember, the photocopy is of the back of the ticket too. So I look at the numbers in the back, and I look at the numbers on our book, and I said, that's from this book. My goodness, who sold this? It went right through my hands. So a couple days later, David comes in and walks up to the counter, and he says, "You recognize this?" And he puts down the ticket on the counter, and there it is, the $4 million winner. And I said, "Oh, David, that's great. Congratulations. That's, I'm so happy for you." And he just kind of took it in stride, said, "Yeah, that's great." And he said, "Here, this is for you." And he had another scratch ticket that he had won $500 on, and that was he played so much that was a couple times a week he'd win $500, so it wasn't a big deal. And he said, "This is for you." And I said, "Oh, David, you don't have to do that," figuring that he'd say, no, just take it. And then I'd say, "Okay," and I'd take it. Well, that didn't happen. I said, "David, you don't have to do that." And he said, "Okay," and he took it back. And I think I was 19, maybe 20 at the time, and I remember going home and thinking, "Oh, $500! Think of all the things I could have done with it." And it was bothering me. So a couple days later, I see David again, and I said, "David, can I reconsider that $500? And he smiled and he said, "I knew you would." And he had it in his pocket, took it out, and gave it to me right there. And that it didn't really hit me until a few years later that I think he was trying to teach me a lesson. I think he recognized me as someone who was kind of shy and who may not speak up when they want something. And I think he was teaching me that when you want something, say it. The other thing about David that has always stuck with me through the years, he passed away just about a year and a half after he won that $4 million. So I feel like he didn't get to enjoy it as much as he could have. But one thing that always resonated with me was even after he won the $4 million, he still came in covered in cow manure, stinking to high heaven, still worked his job every day on the farm. So David, if you're listening, thank you for the lessons, and I wish you could have had more fun with that $4 million.